I was shot with a 12-gauge shotgun 3 times. I get a call from my daughter, hysterically crying, and she told me that my son had been found murdered in Hammond, Indiana. They had killed him and put him in the trunk of a car. You know, I got shot, I got stabbed, and then it was cancer. Stabbing didn't change me. Shooting didn't change me. It was the cancer that actually had me reflect on my life.
Bro, go ahead. Tell me about your background.
Okay, well, first of all, I grew up in the south suburbs of Chicago. I went to school with a lot of guys that was a part of an organization. And, you know, we all were friends first, and then, you know, they grew up on the side of town. They were known as vice lords and Black Peace Stones, the Moes, and the side of town I grew up on, we were Black Gangster Disciples. And it being so many of them in my neighborhood, that's what I became, a Black Gangster Disciple. One day me and some guys were playing football, some gangsters of course, and we was walking, on our way, once we got finished playing some older gangsters, we was about 14, 15, we had been playing older gangsters. So on our way, walk back home, we knew we had to walk through the Vice Lord neighborhood. And upon walking through their neighborhood, we was approached by 3 Vice Lords. Now keep in mind, it was about 6 or 7 of us. So when they approached us, they told us they didn't have no problem with us walking through their neighborhood, but they wanted us to take off our hats. And during that time, that's just something we just didn't believe in. So we told them we weren't gonna do it. So one of the guys on the other side, he said, "Oh, y'all ain't gonna take off your hats," and he tried to swing on my boy. And during the time he tried to swing on my boy hit him. And when that broke out, all chaos broke out during that time. I'm talking about, man, it went from 3 to 6 of us, 3 of them, then it went from 3 to 6, 6 to 6, 10 to 6, 20 to 6. And at that time, then it wasn't about fighting, it was all about survival. So then before I knew it, you know, we were just surviving. We were fighting. I saw one of my guys knocked out and they was finna throw him in the streets of a main street, knocked out and to the traffic. And when I saw that, I just ran and hit the guy as hard as I can, you know, and that stopped that motion right there. So, but anyway, after that, we all had, you know, we had a chance, because I eventually got cut in my stomach. And after that, we had got regrouped. I don't know how they let us do it, but we regrouped for a minute. We all looked at each other, said it was time, we got to get back to our neighborhood. So as we run back to our neighborhood, as we were running back to our neighborhood, which was several blocks away, we were spotted by some of the Vice Lords, in which we had to run through their neighborhood. And they was at their basketball court. And during that time, they didn't see us running through their neighborhood as no welcoming moment. So they just stopped their basketball and they came at us. It ended up being pretty ugly that day. A couple of my guys was beat up pretty bad, but in the end, they eventually surrounded us around a old Kenworth building. They had us they had about 4 of us trapped in a gate. So what we did, we sat there for a minute, then all of a sudden out of nowhere, we heard this car coming through the parking way. It happened to be my dad. My dad saw us because he heard a girl, he saw the commotion, he saw the guys surrounding the fence, but he heard a girl say, "Ooh, look, they said my name. Ooh, they got Waidus and them surrounded." And by him saying my name, that stopped my father doing what he was doing. He came and picked us up. Me, my father, and my uncle went back in that neighborhood. My father told the guys while he had his weapon on him, he told the guys, "Well, y'all was gonna whoop my son, here he is, whoop him." Then he told one guy, he said, "I saw you wanted to whoop my son, whoop him." The guy swung on my father and broke out. By the time he broke out, I broke out behind him. And then when I broke out behind him, he went on a random house. I knew where he lived, but he didn't live at this house. He was trying to turn the knob and go into. But I caught him, and that day I gave him a serious beat down. And he was one of the generals of the Vice Lords. So that day there, I say, really started putting me on the map. You know, where I was no nonsense. Even though my organization was behind me, I found out that day that my family stood more to me than anything.
Go ahead, tell me exactly how you found out you had cancer, how old you was, and what that was about.
About 5 years ago, I just got into a relationship, and that had me go see my doctor one day. When I went and saw my doctor, at that moment, my doctor had looked at prior, prior lab visits that I had had like months before, but he should have told me then. But here we are 6, 7 months later, he looked at some old numbers of mine, and then he tell me to hurry and rush to the hospital because my numbers wasn't looking good. Well, after going through the procedures he wanted me to go through, I found out I had stage 4 prostate cancer. Only thing went through my mind is, my family, how do I tell them? I just had another granddaughter. I got 2 grandkids. I just lost my son. My son was killed. And now how do I tell my daughter, my only living child, that her father had a terminal disease? So I thought. But anyway, my whole family, when I finally did tell my family, all of them was, of course they was going through sorrow, they were down. But one of my family members, instead of looking at the problem, she looked at a solution. And the solution to her was, don't take no medicine not too fast. I'm finna send you certain things that's crucifixial to cancer. And one of the fruits that she had actually sent me from another country during this time, because they didn't have it in the United States, was a fruit called soursop. It's a green fruit. It's like a taste between a pineapple and I want to say a pineapple. It tastes more like a mango. But anyway, this fruit was actually, I was taking this fruit before I took any type of treatment. It was this fruit, and it was a few other things she had sent me. But then I started doing some background. I started doing some research on certain things that was crucifixious to cancer. And I found out mushrooms, blueberries, of course, alkaline water. That's one of the first things that I was told to get, try to change my body to an alkaline body, starting with the alkaline water. But then there was seaweed, sea moss, and then, of course, the soursop. So I say after my first diagnosis for cancer, my numbers was like 300, in the 300s at my numbers for my PSA numbers was 300, over the 300s, which PSAs is not supposed to be more than 4.0. Anything over 4.0 is a red flag. So I was in the 300s, so I had cancer all in my body, in which I was ignorant to cancer. I knew about it, but I didn't know about it. But anyway, upon me finding out, my sister gave me this fruit and gave me some ideas to look, in which I found out these certain other, fruits was crucifixion cancer. I started taking these things daily, and I started mixing them up. And lo and behold, before I did any treatment, the cancer was ridden from my body, slowly but surely. It awed my doctor so much, my oncologist so much, to where he looked at me. He never asked me what was I doing to rid this cancer from my body. All he did is call me by my name and told me to keep doing. He told me, Waidus, keep doing the Waidus. And I do want to say one thing. My cancer, there would never be a cure for cancer. I was stage 4, but I can live a normal life because these are the things that I do daily now. Some people wake up every morning, they have a carefree life, but there's some things that I must do every day. And one thing I must do every day is this mixture of things that I've just told you about, the soursop, the mushrooms, the blueberries, the dandelions, the broccoli, the things that I put into this mixture every morning. I must take this before I do anything. And that's how I start my day. And then once I take these things, it's pretty much, I'm pretty much blessed by what's been happening for me in my life. Now, when it comes to the medication, I'm not gonna say that the medication isn't good. I would never knock any type of medication to doctors for what they do. But do believe, I've asked doctors, I've asked several doctors. I never told them any of the things that I was taking, but I asked several doctors this question right here. I said, do you believe that God put things on this earth that are actually rid some of the illnesses better than medicine? And the doctors I've actually asked this question, they said yes. So there you go.
So you say your son was killed?
Yeah, my son was killed.
Where were you at when you got that call?
4th of July, 3 years ago. I was in Arkansas visiting my family, and I got a call from a lady that was like my son's grandmother. And she asked me, had I seen my son? He was living over in Harvey. So I said, no, not have I seen him, because she knew I was out of town. She asked me, had I heard from him? And I said, no, I hadn't heard from him. So then she told me, well, she hadn't heard from him, and it's not like him, he had come up missing. So what I did, I called around a few numbers that I knew that possibilities where he might be at, but no one had seen him. So let me fast forward it to July 7th, we came home. So upon me making it home, I get a call from my daughter, hysterically crying, and she told me that my son had been found murdered in Hammond, Indiana. They had killed him and put him in the trunk of a car. And he had been in there for days, and I guess, because this was July, so you can imagine the sweltering heat. We never did. The only pictures I have of my son is the memories of the moments I saw him before, because during the funeral, we had to have a closed casket. We never saw my son. We don't even know if he was in that casket, but the body had swollen up so much, decomposed by being in the heat and in the trunk, to where the police officers told us it'd be best that we didn't see him, so we left it right there.
Okay, did they ever catch anybody for the homicide?
Well, as a matter of fact, upon my son's death, I'm pretty familiar with the mayor of Harvey. Me and the mayor of Harvey actually went to school together. As a matter of fact, I could do better than that. I've been knowing him since before he started going to school. We grew up on the same street. But anyway, pardon me, this happening to my son in Hammond, Indiana, now, Harvey police told me, when I told them that, I wanted to, I was going to be coming back and forth, but I wanted them to lead the investigation, they told me that Hammond, Indiana had the case and it wasn't their case. And I said, how could that be? The crime was committed in Harvey. I had to go through all types of staff members in Harvey just for the police to admit that, yes, it is our case. Now, here we go. Hammond police eventually solves the case. They tells me, they say, okay, now listen, we want to turn it over to Harvey, but we want Harvey not to let it just sitting on their desk. So I said, okay, so that's what I go. I actually go talk to the mayor. Since we know each other well, he asked me, what can I do for you? But the question was, what can I do for you concerning this case? I said, well, when Harvey police get the case, please do not let this just sit on their desk. And right now, today, they tell me that, yes, the case is solved. Yes, they know who done it. But they tell me they can't go pick them up because they don't have a live witness that was willing to testify against them. I've even asked Harvey police, well, I've seen and heard of some cases that was circumstantial, that police, that state had brought to the courts and they have actually won. But the Harvey Police Department refused to file the case because they say they don't have a live witness. All the witnesses are afraid to testify. So, from my understanding, this guy right now is just walking the streets claiming a body. My son don't have a name, he's just a body. Yeah.
So did they say what it was about, what it was over?
Well, they told me, Harvey police actually told me, they called me, my wife, and my son's mother into the office, and they was telling me on what they thought had occurred. Police officer had told us that he had went to go get some, I guess, some mollies, and the guy in whom he was getting the mollies from, he was already high off his own mollies, and I guess from my understanding, he had a gun or something, a weapon. That my son had asked him, let me see it so I can shoot it, and when he said that, so he can go to the back and something he said, and the guy tweaked, and he said he shot my son. He said my son ran to the back. He said, and I guess he must have been hiding somewhere, wheezing, breathing, taking his last breath, I suppose. But anyway, some girl supposed to heard him and told the guy who had shot him the first time, it's a guy in our backyard, and he sounded like he wheezing, and the guy went over there and he shot him again and killed him.
Mm-hmm.
And then they say that's when, they must have transported him to Indiana.
Okay, and so how did Indiana police find him?
Okay, now, Indiana police say they found him because they said that someone had complained of a smell coming from the rear of an abandoned car. Okay, and this was the car in which my son was driving. It was taken from out of Harvey, Illinois to Hammond, Indiana. And the first time I actually talked to the detective, much respect to Detective Bates of the Hammond Police Department. The first time I talked to Detective Bates, he questioned me. He asked me, do I know anybody that would want to hurt my son, or, was my son into anybody? And then he asked me, what do I think? And I told him, I think that they was gonna follow the cameras, find out who dropped off their car, and they was gonna solve the case. And that's exactly what they did. Now here it is, I wanna say 2 years later, and the case is still sitting on Harvey Illinois' desk, police department's desk. Now, I'm actually just, I don't wanna say moments away, but I'm at the point now where I'm gonna go just go up to the prosecuting attorney's office in Marvin Court building, and then just tell them of my story about how, the death of my son, and tell them everything that I know. I'm telling them about how Harvey is sitting on the case. And when I told Harvey police, I said, now, you pushing me in the corner now. I'm asking you guys to go on and file it under, circumstance, see if you could at least give it to the state's attorney, see if she'll file it, or they'll file it under circumstantial evidence. They refused to go do it that way, so. I don't know, my hands are tied.
All right, cool. So how have your, as far as your cancer treatment, how's everything going right now?
Well, right now, like I say, your numbers are anything over 4.0 prostate is in the red. Okay, like I said before, my numbers is over 300. So that means it was cancer written all over my body. But now, right now, my number is 0.3. 4.0, 0.3. So they tell me I'll have cancer for the rest of my life, but I can't live a normal life because my cancer is in dormant. It's not active. So.
All right. So what are some of the symptoms of prostate cancer?
Okay, good question. And I want everybody to listen to this one. I noticed that I was very, very ignorant to knowing my own body. The first thing I started noticing that when I would take a bath or a shower, I would itch between my legs and between my thighs constantly, just just steadily itching when the water would touch me. And then another one was, now this is something I noticed, but I was ignorant and didn't go see the doctor about it. Okay, I noticed I had an itch when I would take a shower or take a bath, and just between my thighs, so I would do a lot of scratching. But it wasn't, it was like an internal itch, like my skin. And then the next thing I noticed that whenever I would use the bathroom, I'm finna do the number 2, and I would be pissing. My piss would struggle to come out, where I would have to lean over in order for my piss to come out. Now that should have told me something there, but I didn't know no better. I'm thinking I'm in my 50s and it's a part of getting old, but it wasn't. It was prostate.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that people should get checked up more, change doctors, or just really insist on the doctor double check everything?
I do believe that, especially our people, the black man. Now, we love to tell the story of how we went out and had this big, beautiful, delicious, succulent steak, not knowing that it's actually the beef, the steak, that rots up in our system and one of the number 1 causes of us having prostate cancer. We love and just tell people of how we did this and did that. But see, our ignorance will really hurt us. Right now today, I don't eat steak, not because it's not a good food or it don't taste good, because I know what it can do to the body.
Wow, what about sugar?
Sugar is one of the main ingredients that feeds cancer, okay? Like I say, I'm on soursop. It's a daily diet of mine. They got soursop, they sell it in jewels, in a green container. Soursop will really help your cancer. But the reason, I used to take this one and my numbers plummeted. Like I say, today, my cancer is inactive, okay? I'm doing just I'm living. But the soursop I was taking, I no longer take that as much because I take the soursop tea that I've actually started ordering from off of Amazon. And the tea don't have sugar. The reason I stopped taking the other one, because I noticed when I read it one day, it had added sugars. And sugar feeds cancer. So we try to stay away from as much sugar as we possibly can.
Wow. So how does that make you reflect back on your life and how you lived as a kid and how you grew up?
Well, my mother used to teach me when I was a child, but she would tell me, God don't like ugly. So no matter what I've done in my lifetime, I've always had God. I've always had God in my life because God been a part of my life since I was a young child. So, I've actually been shot 3 different times. The last time I got shot, I was shot with a 12-gauge shotgun 3 times, in which it covered me from the back of my head right here to the bottom of my foot. But the blessed that I was, because the guy who shot me, he shot me with bird shots. Now, bird shots are the BBs when you see guys shooting the birds in the air. It's not that they precision, they precise in the shooting. It's that it's hundreds of BBs being released, and them hundreds of BBs is gonna hit that bird. So right now, I was like a bird. When he shot me, he put up, I got over 30-something BBs on each side of my back. Whenever I take checks, x-rays, or anything, the question they ask me, sir, have you been shot before? Yes, I have. They can see it all, and it covers from my neck to my back. So,
Can you tell me about the incident where you got shot?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, well, first time I got shot, I was sitting on a bus stop in Harvey, and a guy walked past me in front of me, and I had on my 6-point star chain, And he had asked me, when he walked in front of me, he said, "Man, is you straight?" I said, "Yeah, I'm straight." I never did understand the reason he asked me was I straight, but I never questioned myself. But then the next time, I noticed he walked behind me. I was sitting in the bus terminal, one of them fiberglass bus terminals. So the second time he walked, all he did is did a circle. And he asked me again, "Man, is you straight?" I said, "Yeah, I'm straight." Now this time I'm kind of weary about him because he didn't ask me twice the same question. So as I'm looking now, it's nighttime, and as I'm sitting at the bus station, I look behind me and I notice he stopped. I can't see exactly what he's doing, but I see a silhouette. The next thing I know, I hear gunshots and I feel pain. And I notice he had shot me. I noticed he had shot me in my rear. Okay? So that was the first time. Now the second time I got shot was in Harvey again. I was on 159th. I think I was selling drugs during this time, which I was. I was gangbanging hard. I was during the 80s. That's when, everything was ran with structure. If you wasn't a part of nothing, it was better. It was during that time. It was ran by laws and policy structure, and everything was governed. We had the gangster disciple. We was. If you ask me, we was the supplier of everything. We led everything. So this one particular day, I was standing on the porch and I was selling some drugs on 159th in Lexington, and all I can remember is some guys running, and as I saw them running, I saw a guy that was running after them. So I wasn't thinking nothing, so I turned around. It had nothing to do with me. But then I heard a bang and I felt something hit my shoulder. So I started running. And sure enough, I got shot in the shoulder. And as a matter of fact, later on that evening, after I regrouped, I found the bullet not the casing, but the bullet shell in my it was in the sleeve of my jacket. So what it did, it hit my bone here and come out the top of my shoulder, and the bullet was still in my jacket. Now that was the second time. Now the third time I got shot, I was in a town called Brinkley, Arkansas, and this guy, he was right down the street. I lived about 4 blocks from the police station, and I saw this guy riding down the street what looked to be a shotgun on his shoulder. So he pulled up. I lived in a duplex. He pulled up in the driveway next to me, and he asked me, "Hey man, do you have any problems with my auntie?" I didn't know who his auntie was, but his auntie was the lady that lived next door to me. So I said, "No." And then I looked at him. I said, "Hey man, is that a real gun?" When I asked that question, I guess he was trying to show me it was real. He pointed at me. So when he downed it on me, I took off running. So then it was a Friday night, payday. Of course I had been partying. It was late in the evening. So my first thing came to my mind when I took off running, I'm not finna run from nobody. And then when I stopped, that's when he really unloaded. He shot me 3 times with a 12 gauge. And right now today, I can't take MRIs because I got so much lead in my body,
Mm-hmm. Okay, so how do you reflect on life that you're living now and what's going on in your life, and how do you reflect on your past and how that's changed what's going on now?
You know what? Well, when I was young, I thought I was invincible. I had a friend of a young lady whom I was dealing with. He used to call me bulletproof, and that's exactly what I thought I was. I thought that, even though I got shot, I got stabbed, and then it was cancer. It took those 3, the stabbing didn't change me. The shooting didn't change me. It was the cancer that actually had me reflect on my life. And I thought about it. 3 things, 3 different weapons was used to take my life. A knife, 3 times, 3 different guns, and cancer. And God still allowed me to be here. So, when I reflect, the only thing I can think of now is when my first was diagnosed with cancer and how my family was not gonna give up on me and how some of my friends that actually gave up on me. But my family wouldn't give up on me, and how stage 4 and I had lost weight, oh my God, within a blink of an eye, I lost like over 20 pounds, and how I was going through depression and didn't see it. And then I remember my daughter telling me, Daddy, you're gonna have to teach Rain how to drive. Rain is my granddaughter. Rain is, at the time my daughter told me that, Rain might have been 1 month. So she was telling me she needed me to be around for the next 16, 17, 18 years to teach my granddaughter how to drive. So words like that. And then I gotta give it up to my wife. A lot of people didn't see the pain I was going through. Cancer is painful. Cancer makes you hurt in places you never thought. Excuse me. There was times that I would go through pain. Pain so serious, so severe that it felt like my ribs were being pulled out. Something was taking and pulling my ribs out. I would actually have to push my ribs in. I was in that much pain. I was in so much pain, it felt like the back of my arms was just on fire. I be going through daily pains every day. It feels like somebody's taking a needle and sticking it in my spine. And then I think about, more than anything, my wife when she was my girlfriend, and how when I was first diagnosed, how I was so confused because the doctor had told me, sir, you stage 4 prostate cancer, and there isn't a cure. Everything I've done, everything good, bad I had done, it just flashed before me. And I think about my girlfriend, who's my wife right now. When I told her that, how I was speechless, I didn't know what to say, I was confused. And she told me to go get another diagnosis. So I think about the second diagnosis. This doctor told me that, sir, after looking at my paperwork and everything, he say, well, we're gonna have to handle you aggressively, but you're young. I say, sir, I'm 50 years old. He say, you're young. So I say, well, handle me aggressively if you need. But I just think back, I reflect on how some nights I would go through so much pain and my wife wouldn't give up on me. You know, when it comes to having cancer, you lose out on certain things in your life. All right, and certain things that I lost out on, you know, like that I'll never, you know, be able to enjoy. I'll never be able to enjoy a careless, a day of being pain-free. I have not been pain-free for a whole day since I've been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. So what I would tell everybody is take care of your health, take care of yourself, and watch the red flags, man. Watch the red flags. If you notice your body is starting to change in such a way that it is confusing till you tell somebody. Because if you don't, you'll be sitting up here like me with having to take certain things just to start my day.
Pussy on fire. Ooh. Down to the wire. life in the shy. Ooh, it's my life in the shy.